gentlemen of the jury, welcome to the trial of Alice Tubbs. I am Judge Walter T. Miser. You are about to see a reenactment of the Alice Tubbs Poker Alice trial held October 13th and 14th of 1925. She was charged by John P. Everett, the state's attorney, with the charges of willfully, unlawfully, and feloniously keeping and maintaining a house of ill fame by various persons resorted to for the purpose of prostitution and lewdness against the law and the peace and the dignity of the state of South Dakota. I will warn you, those of you who maintain tender sensibilities, including any young children here today, that this reenactment is bawdy. It's definitely a PG-13. So, if you believe that you may be offended by the testimony offered today, I invite you to partake of the refreshments found in the outer vestibule. Now that you have been selected as members of the jury, I will take a further moment to admonish you that you must not make your decision based on anything other than what you see in the courtroom here today. You must not consider any outside evidence, including the verdict of guilty that you saw out there. At the close of the testimony, you, members of the jury, will be asked to decide the fate of Alice Tubbs. Mr. Everett, you may give your opening statement.
May it please the court, counsel, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, brazen hussy. The state charges that the defendant, Alice Tubbs, was on June 19, 1924, and for some time previous, a resident of Sturgis, living near Fairview Creek, at the end of the street known as Junction, at the foot of the mountain. We expect to prove to you that on or about June 9, 1924, Officer Emerson, who was the time sheriff, Earl B. Minturn, who was and still is a deputy sheriff, and Fred Westgate, was at that time a deputy state sheriff, went to her place, conducted a raid. There they went into the house and in searching found a jug of liquor, moonshine whiskey, sitting behind a wood box. They conducted a further search, and Officer Westgate was refused entrance to a room. He forced himself into the bedroom. He went in the room and he found a man, a soldier, and a girl named Myrtle Holton at the door. She was dressed in a kimono. And all parties were in various states of intoxication. Then, ladies and gentlemen, on June 15th, 1925, Sheriff Barnes, Chief of Police Rosinski, and Deputy Minturn again called on the place. They made a further search, and there they found a large number of soldiers and civilians gathered, 6 or 8 of them, and they found a woman, herself identified as Bess Brundage, sometimes known as Mrs. E.W. McKibben, found her in bed in a bedroom adjoining the main living room. In her bedroom was a soldier's jacket hanging at the foot of her bed and a soldier's cap or hat on the floor. Out in the main living room was the defendant, Mrs. Tubbs, intoxicated. And there were several other parties in the room with her. And one who had been identified as Sergeant Ottercole was there partially undressed. His jacket was off, his shirt was unbuttoned, his trousers were unbuttoned, and his leggings off. And one of the witnesses will testify he was barefooted or in his stocking feet. On July 11th last, a party consisting of Sheriff Westgate, Mr. Barnes, Mr. Warzynski, Chief of Police, and myself, and some other officers made a raid on the place. There we were met by the door by the same woman, known as Bess. And she at that time was in a quilted kimono of some kind. She opened the door and the officers came in, and she was at that time in an intoxicated condition. And so was the defendant. At that time, the officers found a man in the bedroom, opening off the main room in the bed, and laying on the bed, and dare I say, stark naked. The officers made a search of the place and found another man laying on another bed in another bedroom, fast asleep. And the officers found them all intoxicated, several bottles and glasses laying about, and the woman, Bess, was placed under arrest together with the other inmates. These witnesses will testify as to the matter of common repute that the defendant has, during the period of this time and all this period of time, conducted a house of prostitution, resorted to by various people for the purpose of prostitution. When we present this case to you, we will ask for a verdict of guilty. Thank you.
Mr. Atwater?
Defendant waives open statement, Your Honor.
As I anticipated.
Mr. Everett, you may call your first witness.
We call Fred Westgate. Please take the stand.
Raise your right hand. Officer, do you swear to tell the truth?
I certainly do.
Then state your name.
Fred Westgate,
And where do you live, sir?
Belfouche, South Dakota.
What's your occupation?
I am a deputy state sheriff.
And do you know the defendant, Alice Tubbs?
Boy, do I ever.
We're not going there. How long have you known her?
About 35 years.
And do you know where the defendant resided, Mr. Westgate, on the 9th day of June, on or about the 9th day of June, 1924?
Yes, I did.
And where does she reside?
She lived just yonder over by Junction Avenue, where across the creek and by the old stone barn, just beyond by the mountain base.
And what county is this?
That would be Meade County, sir.
And the state?
South Dakota.
And how long have you known the defendant living there?
As long as I can remember.
Mr. Westgate, I'll ask you whether or not you were at the house of the defendant on or about the 9th day of June, 1924.
Yes, sir.
And was anyone with you?
Yes, sir.
And who was with you?
There was Pat and Merton and Mr. Emerson.
Emerson, that's John Emerson, is it not?
Yes, sir.
He was used to be the sheriff of this county.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And Minturn is Earl B. Minturn, the present deputy sheriff.
Yes, sir.
And was the defendant there at that time?
Yes, he was. Or she was.
I understand. You saw the defendant.
I did see her.
Did you go into the house?
I did.
State what you found when you went into that house.
May I look at my notes?
You may.
All right. So I went inside the house, and behind this wooden box, there was this big jug, and it had a few quarts of moonshine in it. And so then I went a little bit further, and I went into the middle of the house, and I found near upstairs, there was, Alice was in her room, and there was this soldier from Fort Meade. He was there as well. So I went farther in, and I went to a door, and I couldn't get in. So I rapped on the door, and I couldn't get in, and a voice hollered out at me, "Who is it?" And I said, "It's Westgate." And he said, "Well, come on in." So I tried getting in. As soon as I got in, there was a gal named Myrtle who was right there with me. She had nothing on but a kimono. And I don't know what exactly it was, but it was pretty drab and it was blue. And then there was a man on the bed, and then Mr. Emerson came in after me, and then we took them all off to jail.
Were there any others in the house at the time aside from Myrtle, the defendant, and the soldier that you spoke of?
There were 2 soldiers.
And what were the conditions of the inmates, sir?
They were intoxicated,
All of them?
each and every one.
Have you at any other time, Mr. Westgate, during the period intervening between the 9th day of June 1924 and the finding of this information been at that place?
Yes, sir.
This past summer?
Yes, sir. This past summer we was there.
Do you remember who was present at that time?
There was Barnes, Minturn, and then yourself.
Do you remember, was it night or day? I don't.
It was definitely nighttime.
Thank you. Did you or any of the members of the party go into the house at that time?
Yes, sir.
State what was done when you went in.
Well, we went over and got inside the house, and I rapped on one of the doors, and this oldish lady come out, and they called her Bess, and She opened the door, and then she walked back into the middle of the house, and so us and the fellers, we just followed her on into the house.
This room she went into, where was it?
It was in the northwest corner of the house.
What was it used for?
It was a bedroom.
Ah, so there was a bed in there.
There was a bed in there.
Hence the term bedroom.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Say what you found in there.
I found a naked man in there, naked as a jaybird.
Was there anyone else in there?
There was another lady in there, and she had nothing on but a kimono.
Again, a kimono.
Yes, sir.
Did you observe her condition?
You mean like as intoxication?
Yes.
No, she was intoxicated.
Who else was there in that evening, if you remember?
There was a painter there that was from town.
And where was he?
He was in the bed too.
And what was his condition?
Well, he was lying on the bed, and from what I could see, he was paralyzed drunk.
Did you make any search for liquor that evening?
I did.
And state whether or not you found any liquor.
Well, I found several bottles of wine and a few quarts of wine.
Was anyone arrested that evening?
Yes, sir.
State, if you can, the circumstances surrounding the arrest.
Well, there was this old gal Bess, she was there, and then a guy named Claude Heiss, he was there as well.
All right, this is crucial now. The other man you spoke of, who was stark naked on the bed, know what became of him?
Well, there was a door on the outside of the bedroom that he was in, and then we had been in another room, and I think he snuck on out of that door.
Now, this is crucial. The naked man, do you remember anything about his clothing?
Like whether or not he had clothes on?
Something like that.
He was naked.
What about, were there any clothes strewn about the floor?
None that I could see. Well, there's a few clothing, but
Did any of the members, were there any of the members brought up to jail that night?
yes, sir.
Okay. And Bess was arrested, as you stated. Was she in the, can you describe to the jury what condition she was in when she was arrested?
She was awfully drunk. I mean, real drunk.
And when you took her to jail that evening, was she in the same condition as you found her?
You mean like was she dressed?
That would be appropriate, yes.
Well, she was dressed eventually.
And did you see her get dressed?
I did see that operation.
Officer Westgate, describe to the jury, if you will, the circumstances surrounding the dressing of the woman as you remember.
Well, she was naked, as I stated. And then you and I had to help her hold her up. And then we put her clothes on as best as we could.
And where did this take place?
It was in her bedroom.
In the bedroom.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Was this the same bedroom where the man was half naked?
It was.
I'll ask you whether you know the reputation of the defendant and the house as you described.
Yes, sir.
And what is that reputation, sir?
She's a sporting woman.
By a sporting woman, what do you mean, sir? What is sporting house, a sporting woman? What is it exactly you mean?
Well, it's a house of ill fame and prostitution.
Thank you. I have no further questions. You may take the witness.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
First time you testified to is the 9th day of June.
I believe that's the date.
Now, as I understand it, you saw the defendant at that time, Mrs. Tubbs.
Yes, sir.
Where was she when you saw her?
She was in her lying on the bed in the middle of her room.
Was she dressed or otherwise?
She was.
Where was this man, the soldier you say was around the house?
I don't remember where he was when we first went in.
Well, he wasn't in bed with Mrs. Tubbs or anything like that.
No, he wasn't.
Do you recall whether the man was dressed?
He was dressed.
Now, this other soldier, the one that was about the house, do you recall his name?
No, I don't.
How about Mickey Morrison?
That's it. That's his name.
And he was just about to be pensioned?
He was just about to be pensioned. Yes, sir.
Quite an old fellow.
Yes, sir.
fellow you say you found upstairs there, you don't recall his name?
No, but if I heard it, I would remember it.
Was he a younger man?
Yes, he was very young.
And you say you found him in bed?
Yes, sir, he was in bed. All he had on was his BVDs.
And the girl had on a kimono?
And she had something kind of like that.
Some kind of sleeping apparel?
Well, I wouldn't say it was a nightgown, but it was definitely something you could sleep in.
You say she was somewhat intoxicated?
Yes, sir.
That was the only woman you found in the house on that occasion other than Mrs. Tubbs?
That's all.
The house is quite a big house, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
And she was the only one there beside Mrs. Tubbs?
Yes, sir.
Now, on this other occasion, there was no one there, no woman there, except this woman you referred to as Bessie?
Yes, that was all.
And Bessie is rather ancient?
I suppose so.
And from appearance at least, she belongs to the superannuated list?
Yes, sir, I suppose so.
Kind of a sickly looking
She wasn't very husky.
woman. And unhealthy appearing generally?
Yes, sir.
I will ask you if you recall ever having known her in earlier years.
Well, no, sir.
And Alice was not there on that occasion.
No, sir.
As a matter of fact, Mrs. Tubbs, you knew, was up here at the county jail.
Well, I didn't have anything to do with her going to jail.
Just answer the question.
Well, she was in jail, sir.
It had been home for some time.
That's correct.
So far as you knew, it had been some days since she had been home.
Yes, sir.
And you didn't find any moonshine or anything like that on that occasion.
I don't think there was any moonshine on that day.
You didn't know whether there were girls living there at that time.
No, sir.
You also knew of the reputation of the house at that time, did you? What its reputation was?
Yes, sir, since I was a boy.
And there was a time, there was a dance hall standing on this side of the house where she lives in.
Yes, sir.
And that dance hall, for the purpose of refreshing your recollection, was run by a J.P. Henry.
Yes, sir, I believe that's correct.
In fact, at the time you knew her husband, Mr. Tubbs, did you?
Yes, sir.
And he was living about that time, was he not? The time that the dance hall was running?
Yes, it was.
At that time, the house had a reputation for being a sporting house.
Yes, sir.
And if there were no women kept at this place for the purpose of prostitution, would you view it then as being entitled to be known as a house of prostitution?
If there were no women there,
Yes.
well, I wouldn't call it a sporting house if there weren't any women there.
And at the greater portion of the time, there was no woman there who indulged in any acts of prostitution. Would you then consider it a house of prostitution?
No, I wouldn't.
The mere fact that there might be liquor there, and that occasionally people who enjoy a little congenial company happen to meet there to enjoy a few drinks, that wouldn't bring it a house of prostitution.
No, it wouldn't.
That is all. Mr. Everett?
Mr. Westgate,
Yes, sir.
this girl Myrtle, I believe you said you know her quite well.
Yes, sir.
And do you know what her reputation is?
Yes, sir.
And what is that reputation, sir?
Jesus.
Objection. Incompetent.
Second. Call roll.
I should again ask the question, sure. Do you know her reputation?
Yes, sir.
And what is her reputation?
She's a sporting woman.
And what kind of looking woman is she?
Rather good looking.
No further questions. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Everett, you may call your next witness. Please step down, sir.
Thank you, sir.
We will call William Warzinski.
Good luck, buddy.
Do you swear to tell the truth?
I do.
Mr. Wierzinski. Am I pronouncing that right?
You are, sir.
You're not Norwegian, are you?
No, I'm not.
Thank you. Sir, where do you reside?
Sturgis, South Dakota.
And what official position do you occupy?
Chief of Police.
And were you chief of police on June 9th, 1924?
I was not.
No. How long have you resided in Sturgis?
About 2 years.
And where did you reside previous to that?
Red Owl, South Dakota.
And you've resided in Meade County how many years?
About 18 years now.
Are you acquainted with the defendant, Alice Tubbs?
Oh, yes, sir.
I'll ask you, have you ever been at her place?
Yes, sir.
And more than once?
More than once, yes.
Speaking in the bushes.
Your Honor, please. How long have you known her?
I couldn't say.
Okay. Well, frequently, sir.
Yes, sir.
I'll ask you whether you remember being there at the place of the defendant anytime in June 1925.
I was.
About when? The
About
15th?
About the 15th, I guess.
And who was with you at that time?
Mr. Barnes, Mr. Mincher.
And who was there at the time?
Well, there's Mrs. Tubbs, one they called Bess, and there was 3 soldiers and a civilian.
Was this in the daytime or the night?
That was the nighttime.
And was the defendant there at the time?
She was.
And this woman called Bess, was she there?
She was in the northwest room.
Is that the bedroom?
Yes, sir, it is.
And is there a bed in there?
Why, yes, sir.
Was there anyone else in the room when you went in?
There was not.
What about the other people?
They were in the room adjoining.
Did you have an occasion to observe the condition of any of the men who were there?
Oh, I did.
And will you please tell the jury, state to them how they were clothed?
Well, there was one of them. His shirt was unbuttoned, his trousers unbuttoned, and his shoes were unlaced.
Was he a soldier or civilian?
He was a soldier.
Did he have on a coat?
No, sir.
Did you know where his coat was?
His coat was hanging on the foot of the bed, where Bess was.
Where Bess was asleep?
Yes,
And the defendant was there.
she was.
Did you observe her condition?
I did.
And what state was she in?
I should say she was drunk.
Were there any other people there drunk?
I would say Bess was. The others had been drinking.
Did you find any liquor?
Oh, I did.
And where did you find it, sir?
I found a pint bottle in the east room and a raincoat.
And was that all the liquor you found?
It was.
Do you recall any other occasion when you visited there and gone into the house?
Yes, sir.
The next occasion, as you remember.
How about 29th of June?
And who was present then, sir?
Well, Miss Tubbs was there.
Have you had any other visits or searches at the place?
Oh, yes, sir.
And when was the next one you recall?
About the 11th of July.
Do you know who was present at the search at that time?
I do.
And who was it?
Well, Barnes, Westgate, Pat Minchern, and myself.
And who was there on that occasion?
Bess, the one they call Bess, and 2 men.
You saw 2 men.
Yes, sir.
Where were these men?
Well, one was in the middle room, on the bed, and the other was in the northwest bedroom.
Again in the bedroom. Did you observe how he was clothed?
He didn't have anything on.
He was naked.
He was naked,
And what was he doing?
laying there on the bed.
And you state Bess was there at the time?
Yes, sir.
And when did you see her?
Well, she came and opened the door.
And sir, how was she clothed?
She had a dark colored kimono, a bathrobe, or whatever you call it.
Did you observe the condition of any of these inmates?
They was drunk.
And one of these men was naked in the bedroom.
Yes, sir.
Have you been there any time recently?
I have.
And state the time you were there.
About, well, Mr. Oldfield and I was there one night.
Do you know how long ago that was?
That was about the time the carnival was here.
Oh, so it was about last summer.
Yes, sir.
And whom did you see on that occasion?
Well, we seen Bess.
Did you see the defendant?
No, she was in jail.
Have you ever seen this woman Bess on any other visits to the place?
I have several nights.
Do you always rate the place every time you go down there?
No, sir.
Do you know the reputation of Beth as for her occupation?
A sport.
Thank you. I have no further questions. You may take the witness.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
going back to Bess, when did she have this reputation of being a sporting woman?
Ever since I've been in town, all the information I've known about her.
And from whom did you get this information?
Well, them soldiers, they've been going there.
How many of them ever told you they were having acts of lewdness with her?
There wasn't any of them.
What soldier has been going there that told you that she was a sporting woman?
Well, I don't know.
Then you didn't get it from any of them.
I didn't say I did.
You have taken a good deal of interest in this matter, haven't you?
Yes, I have.
Been hanging around over there in the bush and the grasses and all.
Yes, sir.
How many men do you have under your control as chief of police?
Not any.
The only one?
Yes, sir.
So you have been over there, outside the city limits of Sturgis, most of the time during the summer, watching this house instead of watching the property and the people you should be serving.
I didn't say I was there most of the time.
Well, this place isn't within the city limits, is it?
No, sir.
How many times have you been in Alice Stubbs' house since the 9th of June, 1924?
There's 3 or 4.
3 times, isn't it? Twice when Alice was there, and 1 time when Alice wasn't there.
Yes, sir.
And on one of these occasions, you and Oldfield were laying out under the window when Bess came out to see who was there.
I wasn't lying there, I was standing there.
Sneaking around.
We was by the north side of the house, we wasn't sneaking.
There wasn't a soul in the house there except for poor old Bess.
As far as I know.
There wasn't anybody resorting to acts of lewdness on that occasion.
Not that I know of.
In all your sneaking and listening at keyholes and windows, have you ever had any occasion to hear or see any act of lewdness or act of prostitution at this house since the 9th of June, 1924?
Only that night that fella was in the bed there.
But all you saw was a naked man. That was the lewdness you saw.
Yes.
On the 29th day of June, when you were there, that was in the latter part of the afternoon?
Yes, sir.
Bess was out in the garden.
She wasn't there at the time, later on.
Where was she?
She's in the house.
She was sober that day?
I couldn't say she was exactly sober.
You couldn't say that on the 29th of June that Bess Brundage was sober.
No, sir.
Did you see me over there that day?
Yes, sir.
Was I sober?
I suppose it was.
You mean to say Bess Brundage was drunk?
I didn't say she was drunk.
What was she?
I didn't say she wasn't drunk, or I didn't say she wasn't sober.
That's all. Mr. Evans.
Sir, in your official capacity to go over to this house of ill repute to raid the place, is it your custom to send a brass band to let them know you are coming?
Objected to is not proper cross-examination and competent for all purposes.
Sustained.
You know I'm going to defer to the second half. The state rests.
Very good. You may step down, sir. Mr. Atwater, you may call your first witness.
Thank you. Defense would call Alice Tubbs.
Alice, you've been there before. Stand up. You swear to tell the truth?
I do.
For the record, you may state your name
Alice Tubbs,
and where do you reside?
north of Bear Beak Creek at the end of Junction Avenue.
You own that property down there, do you?
Yes,
And how long have you owned it?
I bought it in 1913.
And you have resided there since that time?
Yes, sir.
And you have been residing there, at least that has been your home at all times since the 9th of June, 1924?
Yes.
How long have you lived in Black Hills?
Well, I came here first in '84, and I went away and came back in 1893, and I've lived here ever since.
During that time, you have resided in Meade County most of the time?
Well, we lived down on the river a year or two, my husband and I. But I've lived in Sturgis 32 years.
And what is the name of your husband?
W.G. Tubbs.
How long has he been dead?
He died the 31st day of December, 1910.
And where did he die?
Out on a ranch on the Moreau River.
If I may be so bold, Mrs. Tubbs, how old are you?
I was born the 17th day of February, 1853. I'll be 73, the 17th this coming February.
At any time on or since the 9th day of June 1924, have you maintained and kept a house of ill fame to which various persons resorted to for the purpose of prostitution or lewdness?
I haven't kept any woman since 1917. I had women there before that, when the state was open, but I've kept no women there since, and lived there alone up until last January, February, when Mrs. McKibben came. She's been there part of the time since.
Mrs. McKibben, is she the person referred to in the testimony yesterday as Bess or Bessie?
Yes,
And when did you say she came?
it was in January.
During any of the time between the 9th of June 1924 and the present time, have you ever knowingly permitted any acts of prostitution or lewdness to be committed in that house with your knowledge or consent?
No, sir.
And have you never kept a house of prostitution since that time in 1917?
I closed the house when the state went dry because there was no money in it after I couldn't sell beer, and the girls all left at once.
Now, Alice, would you relate the circumstances of June 9th, 1924?
I will tell you, I couldn't quite say positively. There was Jimmy and Myrtle, and Lloyd Cole and his wife came down from Lead and had dinner. They went home in the evening, and the next morning Jimmy got up to see if the car was ready to take us on the fishing trip to Sand Creek. And Myrtle and I, well, we had several drinks. She brought down something in a sack, had all kinds of groceries to take fishing. There was another party going with us from the post.
And who was he?
Cook at the hospital. He was going along with us, and he got a jug to take along on the fishing trip. I guess he had been drinking out of the jug too. So Myrtle and I had several drinks and we went back to bed. Jimmy wasn't there. I went to my room and she went upstairs, and the next thing I knew, someone was shaking me by the shoulder, wake me up. I kind of peeked out of one eye and I seen this glass jug that had red whiskey in it. Thought it was Myrtle bringing me a drink. Closed my eyes, reached out and said, thanks. Somebody said, you can't have another drink today. I opened both my eyes, then it was Mr. Westgate had the jug. I asked how he got in and he said the doors were open. So we all came to jail.
From the 9th of June 1924 until sometime in January, did anyone live in the house other than yourself?
I don't believe I could swear there was not a woman there, outside of Frank Bates and his wife and children.
He's a rancher?
He's Ike Humphrey's partner in the sheep business on the Moreau River.
They live out in the country where you were living?
There's just a couple miles between us.
When did Mrs. McKibben come to live with you?
It was in January. I don't remember the exact date.
How did it happen that Mrs. McKibben came to live with you?
This last time?
Yes.
Well, it was this way. Her husband came back from France and was retired under a disability of $90 a month. And he got better. As soon as he got a little better, they cut his compensation to $45 a month. Couldn't live on that. She went to work and worked herself to death. He'd work 1 week, then he'd be in bed 3. Of course, he died in short time. And after he died, all she had was $25 a month widow's pension. She don't eat anything anyhow, so it don't cost me any more to feed old Dewey and myself than it did before, so she was perfectly welcome.
Now, tell the jury who old Dewey is.
An old man that worked for me 8 to 10 years. He's nearly blind, but he had a home there, and all it cost me is his living and his clothes and his tobacco. And of course, if he is sick, he couldn't work any place. If I didn't keep him, he'd have to go to the county house.
After Mrs. McKinnon came, she then continued to live with you from that time on?
Yes.
During the time that she's been at your house, has she been plying the vocation of a prostitute or receiving company, rustling, as you used to call it in the business?
No, sir. I actually believe if a man came over there looking to see a woman, after he seen that sick woman, he would say, come on, old lady, to me. And Lord knows there's been no one running around the block to catch me.
During that time, have you been indulging in any acts of that kind?
Who, me?
Yeah. Yes.
Objection, Your Honor, immaterial and incompetent, and the witnesses too.
I don't believe the judge is insinuating anything against my private character. God knows, I never was a bad woman when I was a young woman, and I'm not starting in when I'm a great-grandmother, sure.
May I? Was there, to your knowledge, or with your consent, any acts of sexual intercourse or prostitution or lewdness on that occasion?
There was no one there but Bessie and I and those two men. We was playing cards in her room, and this sergeant or the other fellow might have taken his blouse off and hung it on the foot of the bed, but there was nobody went to bed until I tried to get a car and couldn't. Then they went in the mill room, and she went to bed in her room, and I went in my room.
Now, this occasion, June 29th, as I recall, there was nothing in connection with that except some claims that you were intoxicated, I believe.
Well, I guess I'll have to acknowledge this is a fact, but there was no one in the house that day. I was just simply in bed. I had been up in the hills, I've been drinking a little up there, and I came home and went to bed.
Now, I believe you have a strawberry patch.
Yes, I had lots of them. My raspberries didn't do no good, but I sold 7 gallons of gooseberries in Lead, 5 gallon in Deadwood, got 25 cents a quart for them, and I believe I sold you a gallon or so. And I sold Mrs. Hamilton some, and Mrs. Dale, and put up 36 quarts of gooseberries myself.
Now, have you, during the last year and a half, or since the 9th of June, 1924, or at any time since the year 1917, maintained or run a house of prostitution, or been permitting acts of prostitution to occur in your house?
No, sir.
As a result of your being arrested on or about the 29th day of June of this year, what happened and where did you go?
Well, I plead guilty. I was intoxicated, and the judge thought my health was in bad shape, and he insisted on 30 days retirement. He said he thought I would feel lots better.
And you did stay up there in jail during that time?
Yes, I was cook. I had to go to cooking and self-protection. The deputy had a man cook in there, and he couldn't even boil water. All he could do was fry something in grease, and I told Pat I could do a little better. And we lived pretty good, didn't we? And Judge, you liked that pie.
Switching subjects. What would you say is the condition of Bess's health?
Well, she was sick when she came, and she's still sick. Didn't know her when she came, when she must have weighed about 165 or 70 pounds. Now I don't believe she even weighs over 100.
Has she been able to be up and about all the time?
No, sometimes she feels fine, tells me what we're gonna do next summer, then the next day she'll be in bed all day.
In your judgment as a woman and from your experience in the affairs of that kind, would it be your opinion during the time that she has been at your place that she is in a physical condition to be capable of performing acts of prostitution?
Your Honor, I object. This calls for a conclusion and opinion of the witness.
We ought to know, Judge.
Well, I believe that she's laid an adequate foundation. Oh, sorry. That was a Freudian slip. Overruled.
No, sir, she hasn't, and I don't believe any man on God Almighty's earth would want to have connection with her in the condition she's in.
That's all I have. You may take the witness.
Ms. Tubbs, you know Myrtle had no other trade or profession other than a common prostitute.
No, I didn't.
You knew she was a common prostitute.
She is finely educated, stenographer in Omaha, and she married an engineer.
You had no reason to expect from her conversation acts that she was a girl of loose character.
I've heard plenty of women that were supposed to be respectable use lots worse language than I ever heard Myrtle use.
So you got drunk that night? You say that?
I didn't say I got drunk.
You were intoxicated at the time the officers arrived.
That was 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
My mistake. You were intoxicated.
I will freely admit that.
You didn't know what was going on while you were asleep?
I don't know that Myrtle was asleep because Mr. Westgate said she was in the room and had a kimono or bathrobe on. I didn't know he was up there until the officers woke me up.
In In these various parties that occur at your house, is nothing unusual for females to run around in kimonos?
To tell you the truth, I know plenty of respectable women who run around in kimonos.
Do you receive male company in them?
I've seen them receive male company in them. I don't think there's anything so modest as the clothes the women run the streets in nowadays.
You say it was a custom of respectable people generally to receive their guests in their kimonos?
No, I didn't suggest that at all.
I believe you said Sergeant Otterpool was there. At the time he was in the room with you.
He was not. He and this dentist was in the front room.
And did you notice his trousers were unbuttoned and his shirt open?
No.
I beg your pardon. What was it?
He'd taken his blouse off when we were playing cards. As far as having his leggings off, I think he did, maybe not. As far as his pants being unbuttoned, I don't think so.
You were intoxicated at the time, were you not?
There are different stages of intoxication.
I know, but you were intoxicated.
I wasn't so intoxicated I didn't know what was going on.
And you had several visitors, correct?
Yes, sir, there's dozens and dozens of country people. When they come to town, they'll stop in and say, how do you do?
And now when you were arrested,
I was arrested the 29th day of June.
I'm referring to the day you pled guilty to intoxication.
I was sentenced on the 30th day of June. I was in jail on the 11th of July.
Very well. Referring to at that occasion, did you say anything to Bessie about the conduct at the place while you were gone?
It wasn't necessary. She knew I didn't allow anything of that kind.
Did you say something to her, didn't you? You did say something.
You were present. You ought to know. I wasn't in condition to know.
Didn't you tell me afterwards you gave her instructions?
I sent Dewey from the jail to give instructions.
Okay. And what were those instructions?
Not to let anybody in the house while I was away.
And you gave instructions not to let the police in.
Your chief of police was sneaking around, lying in the grass under the windows.
Did you ever catch him?
I saw him.
And he was laying under your window in the grass. Is that you want this jury to believe that?
Yes, sir.
That's all I have.
Thank you, ma'am. You may step down. Mr. Atwater?
Thank you, Your Honor. The defendant would call Mrs. Bessie.
You swear to tell the truth?
For the record, would you state your name, please?
I am Mrs. Bessie McKibben
And where do you reside?
with Mrs. Tibbs, the north side of Sturgis,
And how long have you lived there?
since January of 1925.
Had you known Mrs. Had you known her prior to that time?
Yes, I've known her for many years.
Where had you been living prior to your coming to her place in January 1925?
First, I lived in the state of Indiana, and I also worked for a while in Chicago. I lived in Denver for a while, and then I went down to New Mexico, home to New Mexico with my niece.
Had you lived in Sturgis before this time?
Yes,
And when was that?
it was in 1917 that I left here the first time.
And at the time you lived here, was your name McGibbon?
No, sir.
What name did you have?
Bessie Brundage.
Did you meet Sergeant McGibbon at that time?
Yes, sir.
And was he stationed at Fort Meade?
Yes, sir.
When you lived here in 1917, where did you go and what happened?
Well, on the 20th of December in 17, Sergeant McKibben and I went to Louisville, Kentucky and were married on the 26th of December. When he left for overseas to France, I came back to visit Mrs. Tubbs. He asked that I do so. I came in June and lived with her alone up until January, I believe. When my sister died, I went home to New Mexico for her death.
Did your husband eventually return from France?
Yes, on the 28th of December.
And is he living at this time?
No, no, sir. In fact, 3 days to today's date, he died.
Oh, I'm very sorry. What was the occasion of your coming back to Sturgis to live here?
Well, I had no living relatives except for brother-in-law. My husband was dead, and I had no home. Mrs. Tibbs and I had been corresponding for several years since I had left in 1917. She asked me to come back. She indicated that there was no way I was going to be able to live on the $25 a month I was receiving. She indicated that her home was open to me, and I had been sick. I couldn't work any longer. I've been under the care of the doctor, and she was just very kindly to me.
Have you been living on the money that you drew from the government on account of your husband's disability?
Yes, sir.
Now, during the time that you have been living there, have you been, to use the expression in the old days, rustling?
No, sir.
And have you been indulging in acts of prostitution during the time you lived there?
No, sir.
Have you known any acts of prostitution or lewd conduct taking place at the Tubbs house during the time you lived there?
No, sir.
Do you recall the occasion of the 9th of June, the 15th of June, 1925?
Yes, sir.
You might state to the jury what your recollection of that is.
Well, I don't just recollect it all. Do you mean in regard to those people that were there?
Yes.
They came in there, and I believe it was towards evening. They came and had dinner with us, and we played a few cards. It was nighttime, and Mrs. Tubbs called to see if she could get them a car and get them home. She was unable to get them a car, so they went to the front bedroom.
Now, were there any acts of lewdness or prostitution at that time?
No, sir.
With reference to this, the 11th day of July, 1925, were you not here you were not here in the courtroom yesterday, were you?
No, sir.
You didn't hear the testimony of the officers.
No, sir.
Go ahead and tell what happened there as you recall it.
Well, I don't recollect just what time in the evening it was, but it was on a Saturday evening, and I had already prepared for bed. Someone rapped on the door, and I went and answered it. They indicated, I had my kimono on, and there were two fellows at the door when I saw them.
Now, was that a kimono or a bathrobe?
Well, it's a bathrobe, one of those, it's kind of a blue color. It's a bathrobe. I opened the door, and the two fellows said they came over to see about doing some work around the house.
And who were those fellows?
One of them is that Pete Fay. The other one, I don't know his name.
Could it be Claude Heiss?
I don't know his name.
Is he a painter?
Painter and a plasterer.
Go ahead.
They came in and wanted to see what the work was that needed to be done. And by them saying, I basically let them in because I thought they should be there. And we sat there and visited about the work that needed to be done.
What was that, a kind of cider or wine?
Oh, we drank, I don't know exactly what it was composed of.
Well, what effect did it have?
Well, it doesn't make you feel very good.
Go ahead.
Well, we drank some of that, and they looked through to see what work was needed to be done. This one fellow, he laid down across the bed.
What bed?
The bed in this Tubbs bedroom. And that other fellow, he kind of disappeared all of a sudden. I didn't know where he went until the first thing I know, there was police officers there. They claim they found him in my room.
Now, the last time you saw him, did he have his clothes on?
He did.
Did you see him after that?
No, sir.
How were you dressed when the officers came?
I had the same bathrobe on, that kimono.
There has been some testimony about you dressing to come up to the jail that night. You were arrested, were you not?
Yes, sir.
Now tell us what the facts really were.
Huh. I had to take the kimono, the bathrobe, off in order to change into proper dress. I asked those police officers at least twice to leave the room. They did not. In fact, the one directed what shoes I should wear and what dress I should put on. I used my bathrobe behind the rocking chair best I could to cover myself up, but I had to change right there in front of them.
Now, other than that, were there any other acts of lewdness during the time the officers were there?
No, sir, and not before either.
Have you known of any prostitution or acts of lewdness at this house during the time that you lived there?
No, sir.
Now, I apologize, but during the time you have lived there, what's been your physical condition?
Not very good. I have a day where I do feel good, and then I'll have a day or two where I stay in bed.
What is your age?
I'm past 50.
And you were under the treatment of a doctor?
Yes, sir, I have been under the treatment of the doctor all this time.
And do you see your doctor today?
Dr. Brandt,
And would you point him out to us?
right there in the hat.
By reason of your physical condition, are you able to follow the calling of a prostitute?
No, sir, I am not.
Now, this is the kid that I'm going to show you what has been marked as Defendant's Exhibit 1 and ask you what you think.
This is the robe I was wearing the night those police officers showed up.
Now, please stand and put on that Exhibit 1, please. Thank you very much. Now, this was the garment you had on the night that police officers arrived?
Yes.
Do you know how it was fastened up that day?
All the way.
And that is the robe that you were making indecent exposure in?
Yes, sir. According to police.
We offer into evidence, Exhibit 1, the robe.
It will be admitted.
That is all.
Thank you, ma'am. You may step down. Mr. Atwater, you may call your next witness.
Thank you. We would call Dr. F.A. Brandt.
Doctor, you swear to tell the truth?
I do. Doctor, for the record, would you state your name, please? As soon as you get your glasses on.
Yes, sir. Yes. It's F.A. Brandt.
And what is your business or occupation?
Position.
Now, you are a regularly licensed to practice medicine in the state of South Dakota?
Yes.
We'll stipulate, well, maybe we'll stipulate Dr. Brandt's qualifications.
Now, doctor, are you acquainted with one Mrs. Bessie Gibbon?
Yes, sir.
Now, during the last year, since the time in January, have you at any time treated her?
I have.
Very often?
Yes. I've probably been there 15 times.
And doctor, are you familiar with her general physical condition?
Yes.
Is she suffering from any malady of any kind?
I diagnosed her case as consumption.
Has she any other ailments?
Well, she probably has other complications. It's pretty hard to tell.
Have you ever made a physical examination of her female organs at any time?
Yes, I have.
And now, doctor, from your knowledge and treatment of this woman and the condition of her various organs, what would you say as to whether she was in a condition to follow the vocation of a prostitute?
I would consider those organs tubercular. Personally, I wouldn't think she would have any intercourse or anything like that. She might, of course, but she is diseased.
She could not follow it up with any regularity?
No.
I have nothing further. You may take the witness.
Thank you. Good afternoon, doctor.
Good afternoon.
Doctor, would you say, by reason of general condition of this woman, breast frontage, she could not perform acts of sexual intercourse?
Pretty hard. I don't think she could.
So you don't think she could?
I don't think so. She might go through the act, but there would be no physical reaction on her.
But she could go through the act.
Possibly she could.
Isn't it a fact, sir, that quite frequently in cases of consumption or tuberculosis, the sex function, in a sense, is revived in the patient, becoming a little more active?
I don't know about that.
Isn't it a matter genetically conceded by medicine that it is frequently happens in people suffering from tuberculosis that as the disease progresses and the general condition becomes run down, the sex function becomes very frequently revived and becomes more active and pronounced?
It might with the irrigation of the organs, but with the advent or the coming advent of Viagra, the actual function is lost.
You mean she wouldn't have the power of reproduction,
Yes,
but mere physical acts of sexual intercourse could be consummated but not enjoyed?
she would have no reaction, but they could go through the performance.
Nothing to prevent that.
No,
Nothing to prevent that in the case of breast bondage, correct.
no, she could go through it.
That's all.
Just a few more questions. But doctor, her general physical condition is so weak that she wouldn't be able to carry it out.
Not very much.
Now, doctor, have you at various times in the last few years visited the house of Alice Tubbs in your professional capacity?
I have.
I believe you testified that you have likely called upon Mrs. McGibbon some 15 times.
Something like that.
Have you treated Mrs. Tubbs at various times since the 9th of June, 1924?
Yes,
Been at her house?
yes. Before that and after that.
Were your visits confined entirely to the day, or have you been called at night?
Different times during the day and night.
And now, doctor, I will ask you whether or not during these visits, within the last 2 or 3 years, you have seen any woman there other than Mrs. Tubbs, or since the return of Mrs. McGibbon?
Just Mrs. McGibbon.
Thank you, doctor. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Thank you, doctor. You may step down. Now, this concludes the testimony presented at this trial. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the time has come for your deliberation and vote by hand to determine whether or not the defendant, Alice Tubbs, is guilty of operating willfully and unlawfully.
Your Honor, I object. I want him to see the kimono first.
All right, all right.
Your Honor,
A bit improper, a bit improper.
I object. What? Ladies and gentlemen, the morality. Where does the morality go in this? What's next? We allow someone like this to apply their trade upon our street? What's next? I dare ask you, motorcyclists? At the behest of our government? No, it's wrong. We have trouble. Right here in Sturgis. Capital T, that right with the B, and that's down, stands for Rothel. Lord, that's awful. Thank you.
You can't run a body house if nobody is present.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, those of you who believe that the defendant Alice Tubbs is guilty, raise your hand.
Seriously?
Those